Which Week 5 NFL games are must bets? Welcome, football fans and gridiron gamblers. It's Mitch here with my Week 5 best bets. The 5 spreads. And in this video, the 6 spreads you need to bet in Week 5. If that sounds good, Gronk, spike the like button, don't be a jabroni, and subscribe for weekly NFL best bets versus the spread. These are my favorite spreads of the week. Let's get started. And of course, let me know in the comment section below your favorite spread to bet in Week 5. Let's kick it off with the most relevant game first. That is the London game. I'm taking the Cleveland Browns, getting 3 in the hook versus the Minnesota Vikings. I will say, first and foremost, I tried to find a reason why I shouldn't bet this game. Because I don't love the spot. I don't love that Cleveland has to travel, and the Vikings have been there, situated, exposed to the time zone, body clock is in control, playing in London. I don't like that aspect of this matchup. But everything else about this game is undeniably in the favor of the Cleveland Browns. This matchup is too good for the Browns to ignore. First of all, this is the lowest total of the week, as it should be. It's the best defense probably in the NFL, the Cleveland Browns, and it's Brian Flores' Vikings defense against a rookie quarterback. It's like a 36-point total right now. It's ridiculous. It's very low. So getting more than a field goal in a game with a total that low, where the game is expected to be, if it goes over 20-17, like that type of game, getting more than a field goal is just honestly, first and foremost, fundamentally a lot of value. Okay? Second, the Minnesota Vikings are an extremely injured team. Extremely injured. Their offensive line is missing 3 starters in this game. Brian O'Neill, one of the low-key best right tackles in football. Ryan Kelly, the center they signed from the Colts, and their left guard first-round pick, Donovan Jackson. That means that they have 3, not 1, not 2, but 3 backup offensive linemen against the most dominant defensive line in football so far. Cleveland has been awesome against the run, stifling opponents. They have been spectacular getting to the quarterback. And when on film, when you watch this team, Cleveland, they are so fast and so quick at penetrating and getting behind the line of scrimmage and getting to the quarterback or making tackles for loss. This defensive line, their 2 defensive tackles, Malik Collins and Mason Graham, the first-round pick, absolutely spectacular quickness. They just absolutely rip apart offensive lines. Myles Garrett is not human. He is an alien. He is unblockable, okay? So you have to put 2 people on Myles Garrett on every play. Sometimes the Packers tried to put 3 people on him. The Browns' defensive line right now is just playing so well, and they have a clear mismatch against a beat-up offensive line. On top of that, Cleveland does have Denzel Ward, who is one of the best cover corners in the NFL. He's probably the best corner that Justin Jefferson has faced all season. Denzel Ward's spectacular, and he allows the Browns to play man-to-man coverage even against the best receivers in the league. If you play uptight, close to the line of scrimmage, the way that Cleveland wants to play, press man coverage, that makes the quarterback hold the ball. With a bad offensive line, which leads to pressure and leads to sacks and leads to forced fumbles. Carson Wentz is traditionally very terrible at holding onto the ball way too long. He's not nearly as athletic as he was in his prime in 2017. He gets sacked, he gets stripped, and he makes mistakes. Okay? Cleveland's defense is fast in the middle. They're very, very well schemed for what they do well for these athletes. Schwartz has been on fire this year. Even in games where, yes, they allowed points, technically, to Detroit or Baltimore. You look at the yardage totals. You look at how they played against dominant offenses. This is not nearly a dominant offense. Minnesota has struggled all year to block, struggled on and off to run the ball, struggled certainly to throw the ball downfield. And Carson Wentz is barely a backup in this league. So I like the Browns here big time on defense. On the flip side, I am a Dillon Gabriel guy. He was my favorite quarterback in this class, not in terms of my number one quarterback, but the guy that I felt was kind of undervalued. And that was also agreed upon by Kevin Stefanski, a pretty smart offensive coach who drafted him not only ahead of Shedeur Sanders, as I would have as well, but also in the third round, because Dillon Gabriel is experienced. He's played more college games than any quarterback ever, even more than Bo Nix. I think he has like 64, 65 starts in college football. So he's an experienced player. He's traditionally been very good against the blitz in college football because he's quick-minded and he is very quick in terms of his processing, his release, and his accuracy. So against Brian Flores, who's going to bring extra heat against this rookie, Dillon Gabriel is already suited to play trigger-happy football in terms of getting it out before the pressure gets there. Stefanski will provide him answers. And I think the biggest answer will be a good run game on early downs. The Vikings have struggled against the run. They've been a bottom 5 run defense so far this year. We even saw Kenneth Gainwell look like Le'Veon Bell in that game last week in Dublin. And I could see Judkins, the rookie, really rumbling for a ton of yards. That's going to allow Cleveland to control the ball, control time of possession, as the Vikings with their beat-up offensive line will not really be able to run the ball. They won't be able to control the clock. They'll constantly be having to chase the game. Cleveland will be where they want to be. And Dillon Gabriel will be able to use his agility and movement skills, his quick feet. Even if he's small, he's quick-footed and quick in terms of his release. He'll get outside the pocket, move the pocket, get away from the pressure, get away from the blitzes, and I believe he'll have easy completions to guys like Njoku, Fannin, and Jerry Jeudy. Stefanski will manage this quarterback that he fell in love with throughout the draft process, and I think he's actually an upgrade over Joe Flacco for this team because Cleveland has turned it back into the Stefanski approach. Run the ball, play action. Run the ball, play action. This is going to look a lot closer to what Baker Mayfield, the offense he ran in Cleveland early in his career. Joe Flacco is running a lot of traditional drop-back pass, and with the current state of the offensive line, specifically tackles of the Browns, it's not a good fit. I think Gabriel is an upgrade. I think what they can do with Gabriel's skill set, quick passes, run the football, play action, that's what you want to do in this game, in a low-scoring game. I don't think he'll turn it over nearly as much as people expect, and I think sometimes he'll be able to avoid a sack, unlike Joe Flacco, and not take a negative play, like Joe Flacco. So I think the Browns actually can win this game. I think that the matchup really suits them well, and it's an extremely low-scoring game. I wouldn't be shocked if the game ended 14-13, 17-16, 17-14, something to that degree, where getting 3 and a hook is just too valuable to pass up. So give me Cleveland plus 3.5. Next, we have my favorite bet of the week, which many of you guys have been making fun of me because I've constantly been backing my Patriots. Well, so far we are 2-1 betting the Patriots this season in my best bets. And I think we're going to be 3-1 because this is my favorite bet of the week. The Patriots getting 8.5 on the road at the Bills on Sunday Night Football. The first reason I like the Patriots has nothing to do with New England. From what I've seen from the Bills this year, they are an overrated team. Now, I am also someone that picked the Bills to win the Super Bowl. And if I still had to pick a team to win the Super Bowl, I still think I'd pick the Bills, because they do have the best player in the NFL, Josh Allen. But there are major weaknesses to this team that we've seen so far. Their defense is really not that good. You can run the ball in this defense as they're last in the NFL in yards per carry allowed. And you can also throw the football on this defense with some really poor safety and secondary corner play in terms of their safeties are slow, They can't cover one-on-one, and that cornerback 2 spot without Maxwell Hairston, Tre'Davious White has been lousy. Okay, their defensive line is solid, but it's not spectacular. It's not a unit that can take over a game, even against maybe an average Patriots offensive line. The Patriots offensive line has certainly improved this year as compared to last year. They do have 4 new starters this year compared to last year, and Will Campbell, their rookie left tackle, has actually played exceptionally well recently. So the Patriots offensive line is continuing to get better. Traditionally, this Buffalo team has actually struggled with the Patriots in recent history. I believe in their last 4 games, the Patriots are 2-2 against Buffalo, including an upset by Mac Jones. Mac Jones actually beat them in a primetime game when he threw 2 passes in 2021 against the Buffalo Bills, which was the last time I believe these two teams played in primetime in Buffalo. And last year, they played in Buffalo in December when the Bills were rolling, and New England lost by a field goal. That was with Drake May. The Patriots were terrible last year. They're a much better team this year. They're much more talented, and they have much better coaching, including Josh McDaniels, who has traditionally done a great job at scheming the run game against Sean McDermott, including that windstorm of 2021, where the Patriots' power running game and size has always given the Bills problems of downhill rushing attack. I believe that will open up the play action for Drake May. And oh yeah, Drake May has literally been a top 5 quarterback this year, the best quarterback on third down. He's a dual threat with his arm and his legs, and the Bills will have a lot of trouble with that. I think they'll have a lot of trouble with this Patriot style that sort of replicates the Ravens in some ways. Size, run the football, play action, and I think the Patriots can utilize Hunter Henry over the middle, even matchups to a revenge game, Stephon Diggs, Mac Hollins, both revenge games, or even potentially Kayshon Boutte to get some plays down the field. So Drake May has been awesome. Drake May with 8.5 against any team in football, I think right now is a great bet. He's simply the most underrated quarterback and maybe player in the NFL. He's a legitimate MVP candidate. And in a game against a subpar defense, this is too many points to pass up. I understand that Josh Allen is superhuman and he's spectacular, and James Cook and the Bills might have the best run game in football. The Patriots defense has been really good against the run this year. I know they haven't faced Buffalo, but they have been top 5 against the run in numerous different metrics, which is going to hold the Bills in a much better fashion than any team they've played so far. They also have a pretty solid defensive line. Harold Landry, Milton Williams, Christian Barmore, and they do have Gonzo back, which has totally changed their secondary. The Patriots easily could just play man coverage in this game and give the Bills some issues because their corners, Carlton Davis and Christian Gonzalez, are better than Keon Coleman and anyone else, I don't know, Josh Palmer, that the Bills have. The Bills are going to have to execute with their screen game. They're going to have to pick on the Patriots linebackers and safeties and try to pick on matchups to the tight ends and running backs. Even if that's the case, I don't really see the Bills putting up like a 35-point game. I think that Josh is going to have to make a lot of magic to really extend these drives because I don't think the run game will be as consistent as usual because of the Patriots' run defense. And I think the Patriots' corners have always given the Bills some issues because they can play man in ways that other teams can't. So I think the Patriots are actually a very good matchup for the Bills. They're a lot better than people think, and especially Drake May. And the Bills have looked a little overrated. They didn't cover against the Saints. They've kind of, they didn't cover against the Dolphins, I don't believe. Like, they didn't look great in either of those games against really bad football teams. I like the Patriots here to cover this game and maybe even win the game outright. I think this is a little bit of a wake-up call for the Bills to get their stuff together. Next, the Houston Texans, -1.5 at the Baltimore Ravens. Now, I didn't really want to make this a best bet, but I can't not do it. I mean, the Texans, they have to win this game, right? They're 1-3 so far. They did beat the Titans 26-0. That was pretty convincing. And I do feel like the Texans have shown some strides over the last 2 weeks offensively. In the fourth quarter against Jacksonville, I felt like they started to get cooking. And against Tennessee in that second half, they were pretty dominant. And it does appear that Woody Marks has given them a spark on the ground. Now, luckily, the Texans can carry that success of running the football against Tennessee into a game against Baltimore, where Baltimore has been literally the worst run defense in the NFL. So the good thing about the Texans here, even on the road, is being able to run the football and keep CJ Stroud out of 3rd and long. This could be a major season-changing thing for the Texans. If the Texans are able to run the ball moving forward, it's going to keep the offensive line, which is the clear weakness of Houston, out of 2nd and 8, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 11. And Houston often hurts themselves with penalties, right? Negative plays, not picking up stunts and blitzes. But CJ Stroud seemingly had more control, it felt like last week, of pointing out blitzers and getting protection straight. And it was a little bit better in that regard. When you look at Baltimore, their defense has been atrocious. I mean, they're right there with Dallas. Like, they look slow, which means I feel like CJ Stroud can extend plays, even if he's under pressure, a bit better than he typically does because they're so slow up front in Baltimore. They have numerous injuries, whether it be their best defensive lineman, Matt Abike. All of their corners are on the injury report. Marlon Humphrey, Nate Wiggins, even Kyle Hamilton at safety is on injury report. Chidobe Awuzie is on the injury report. Roquan Smith is on the injury. And their entire defense is on the injury report. It's basically the AFC's version of the Niners. Now, some of them are limited and stuff, but I'm not sure if who will be playing, who will not be playing. Obviously, the Ravens are desperate, but they're facing a seemingly improving Texans offense, even if it's just a little bit. At least they're not incompetent. They're the worst defense in the league right now. They really struggle against the run. So the Texans can find enough offense between the run balance and Nico Collins to move the football. And then on the other side, without Lamar Jackson at quarterback, the Texans defense is going to tee off on an extremely overrated pass blocking unit of the Ravens. I feel like Danielle Hunter, Will Anderson, you get the return of Denico Autry this week. That's a big deal for the Texans. He's a very good interior pass rusher. They can get pressure on Cooper Rush, and Cooper Rush under pressure is going to make mistakes. Stingley's fantastic. Lassiter's really good. The Texans have been the best defense in football. They're barely allowing any points this year. They have actually by far statistically been the best defense in the league. And they've played the Rams. They've played the Bucs. Like, they haven't played bad offenses, right? So the Texans defense, the Texans' ability to take advantage of the weak Ravens offense, and no threat of Lamar Jackson allows you to focus all your efforts on Derrick Henry. So I think the Texans win this game because they're healthier by far and because they're kind of desperate. I mean, if they go to 1-4, the way the Colts are playing, the way the Jags are playing, good luck coming back in this division. Good luck making the playoffs. You have to take advantage of an injured Ravens team in this spot, and I think the Texans do that. So all they have to do is win by 2. Give me Houston. Next, I am going to go with the Denver Broncos at the Eagles. Now, this is a little bold to fade the Super Bowl champs who are undefeated here, but I think that the Eagles right now are probably the most overrated team in the NFL, and I don't think that's an exaggeration whatsoever. The Eagles could have lost each and every one of their games so far. In week 1, CeeDee Lamb had the dropsies, which just never happens, and Miles Sanders fumbled the ball in the red zone. If neither of those things or just one of those things don't happen, it feels like Dallas wins that game. In week 2, they played the Chiefs, and it was a grinder. It was very close. The Chiefs offense looking incompetent, no receivers to speak of. Travis Kelce drops the ball in the end zone. If that doesn't happen, I feel like the Chiefs might win that game. In week 3, who'd they play? The Eagles. I'm trying to figure out everything that's going down. But last week, the Bucs, week 3, who'd they play? The Rams, right? The Rams, obviously. The Rams, 2 block field goals. I don't even have to bring up anything else that happened. The fact that the Rams were up by like 20 plus points. Like, the Rams clearly were the better team on that day, and they lost because of block field goals, essentially. And then you have last week, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, where the Eagles, sure, they did get the early lead in part of special teams, for sure, but they had 0 yards in the second half throwing the football. Without Lane Johnson on the field, they had -9 yards in the game. The Bucs could have won that game easily. And the Bucs are beat up. They're missing offensive linemen. They're missing Mike Evans, right? The Eagles have not looked impressive. So far, they're actually one of the weakest offenses in football, and their defense is kind of mediocre. Their pass rush is come and go. Their secondary is good, right? Now, the question is, can Denver do enough on offense to win this game? Because we all kind of know the Denver defense is pretty legitimate. Pat Surtain can lock up A.J. Brown, have him in handcuffs, and make him get traded at halftime. And honestly, the Eagles are so vanilla on offense, Vance Joseph's going to put them in a cage. Like, if Saquon can't break big runs against Denver, I don't think they're moving the ball. Like, I don't think the Eagles are moving the ball. I think that this beat-up offensive line of the Eagles could get exposed against what could be the best pass rush in Denver in the NFL. Nick Bonito is just unbelievable right now. Zach Allen and John Franklin Myers pushing the pocket. Jalen Hurts likes to hold the ball. That's a formula for sacks. That's a formula for what the Rams were able to do to the Eagles early in that game. And the Broncos have a much better secondary than the Rams, right? They have kind of an equal front, if not better. And they've got the secondary to stifle those just quick throws out wide to A.J. Brown to fix their offense. The Eagles need to come up with some creative stuff on offense or they're not going to score any points in this game. So inherently, I believe this will be a very low-scoring game. And then on the other side, I just think Sean Payton is going to have enough of some trickery, some smoke and mirrors, balance of the run game, which the Eagles have been a little susceptible to the last couple of weeks. It feels like the Rams were able to run the ball against the Eagles better than expected. The Bucs were able to run the ball against the Eagles better than expected. Maybe part of that is because Jalen Carter is a little banged up, right? And the Eagles are definitely dealing with more injuries. The Broncos have a very good offensive line, which should keep Bo Nix protected. And I wouldn't be shocked if Sean Payton found some vertical shots down the field with their speedy receivers to get some big plays that could turn the tide of this game. I actually think the Broncos are going to win this game. So I'm going to take them with 3.5 points. The Eagles are overdue for a loss. They're overdue to be exposed. And I believe this could be the week because the Broncos defense is going to put Jalen Hurts in a cage. Next, the New Orleans Saints, -1.5 versus the Giants. They're at home here. So if the Saints are going to win a game this year, it's got to be this game. Like, I feel like it's got to be this game. It's this spot. It's this moment. Spencer Rattler has never won an NFL start. I understand that, but this will be the week. Jackson Dart is coming off a big win over Justin Herbert, where he had 110 passing yards. Now, I like this matchup for the Saints. The Giants were able to expose a beat-up offensive line that was having to kind of contort and find itself in the middle of a game once they lost Joe Alt. And when they lost Joe Alt, they couldn't protect Justin Herbert whatsoever. And that was on the fly. The Saints offensive line, I think, is actually a lot better than people think. It's actually a pretty good unit. They have multiple first-rounders at the tackle positions. Both are first-rounders, right? Their center is very good. In the Dome so far, they've actually moved the ball and scored some points. Like, they were able to score 20 against both the Cardinals and the Niners. And both of those defenses, I should say, are much better, in my opinion, than the Giants as a collective, even if the Giants do have a very good pass rush. But I do believe that a healthier Saints offensive line will at least do a respectable job of not allowing Dexter Lawrence and Brian Burns and Abdul Carter to ruin the game. If that's the case, the Saints do have real legitimate speed and downfield threats, like Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed. Juwan Johnson at tight ends had a strong season, and Rattler's playing a bit more responsible than you would think. The Saints have also been good running the ball. They've been good running the ball and pretty good stopping the run. So the Giants last week were completely centered around QB run, handoff to Cam Skattebo, no Malik Neighbors. That could be even worse for their passing game. I feel like the Saints are going to sell out to stop the QB run stuff, get some negative plays. The Saints' run defense has been one of their strengths this year. For the most part, they've been able to stop their opponents. The Niners, the Cardinals, right? The Saints played the Bills last week, which are pretty much an unstoppable run defense. They weren't run offense, and they weren't able to slow down James Cook to the degree that they wanted, but it wasn't like an outright 200-yard rushing day, right? The Saints did a respectable job overall. So I think that their ability to run the ball against the Giants, where the Giants are actually one of the worst run defenses in football. Despite their pass rush, they're a pretty leaky run defense. The Saints are 10th in rushing yards. They ran the ball really well against Buffalo. I think that will carry over here. And their ability to slow down the run and force Jackson Dart to throw without Malik Neighbors and having to adjust to a passing game without Malik Neighbors, I think that is enough for them to win this game. So I like the Saints to get their first win of the season and possibly their only win of the season here, because I think their line of scrimmage ability is going to help them win. And I think that now they have some film on Jackson Dart. It's Jackson Dart's first away game. He's not in the bright lights of New York. The fan base isn't going to be rowdy and pumping the Giants up. The Giants are going to be sleeping for the Saints here. I think the Saints pull this win off, and they're going to be rocking and rolling because the fan base knows this could be the only chance they win a damn game this year. So the Saints are going to win. And then our last bet, our bonus bet for the week, is the Cardinals. I wanted to throw the Cardinals in here. This is a little contingent on injury. J.C. Latham looks like he's going to be out, the right tackle of Tennessee. Calvin Ridley has not practiced this week yet. He could be out for Tennessee. And it does appear that the number one corner of the Cardinals, Will Johnson, their second-round pick, could return, which is a big factor. If he plays and Ridley does not play, I would bet the Cardinals, -7.5. Because I don't know if the Titans have any receivers whatsoever. Their offensive line has really struggled, and the Cardinals do have a deceptively good defense. Their pass rush is pretty strong, led by Calais Campbell, Josh Sweat, and Baron Browning. With Will Johnson back, it really helps their secondary, especially locking down perimeter deep threats or just number one receivers. And I just don't know how Tennessee really moves the ball that well here. Like, on the road, they can't score any points. Last week, they scored 0 against Houston. In a dome as well. They're in a dome once again against Arizona. Arizona has a good pass rush. Arizona's creative in the back end. Arizona, with a healthier secondary, should be able to lock down these receivers. Cam Ward's making mistakes. He doesn't have a lot of help around him. And do I have to mention Tennessee's spread record? I mean, they're 3-18 ATS over their last 21 games. They can't cover the spread. On the other side of the ball, sure, I'm not convinced by the Cardinals offense, but I think Marvin Harrison gained some confidence. He's smiling again. You can see that. I think that's a big factor. I think Trey McBride is basically a dog every week of the year, and the Titans are probably the weakest run defense that the Cardinals have played this year, at least this season. Actually, believe it or not, the Titans are probably the weakest defense they've played in general, even worse than Carolina. Carolina actually looks better and actually statistically is better as a defense than Tennessee this year. Tennessee, a little slow on the edges. Kyler can take advantage of that. Big breakout game for Marvin Harrison potentially. And maybe a little bit more of a run spark than they've had in previous weeks, even without their running backs. I think DeMarcado, Michael Carter can do just enough there. So I think the Cardinals, slowly but surely, maybe a little ugly, are able to separate in this game and win by 10 to 14 points, something like 24-10. I don't think the Titans will score more than 17 points. So I think the Cardinals will win this game, and I think they will cover this game as my bonus bet. There it is, guys. My best bets versus the spread for week 5. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, Gronk spike the like button and let me know in the comments which picks you agree with, which picks you disagree with, and which picks you're taking to the bank. It's Mitch. We'll see you next time. Peace.